Call to order at 7:03, this special meeting of the Tolland Town Council, the annual budget presentation on April 19th, 2023. Everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone be seated. That brings us to item 4, annual budget presentation, 4.1. Pursuant to C9-9 of the Tolland Town Charter, the Town Council shall arrange for an annual budget presentation. The annual budget presentation is intended to provide information and encourage public discussion. So we'll get started on the presentation. Just pull it up on my screen here on the side. All right, so agenda and overall purpose of the meeting. So it's a high-level review of the budget and community planning process, a summary of the budgetary expenditures, summary of revenues, and then we'll have public input and questions. So slide number 3. So at this point, we're at the area where the budget can no longer be changed. As you can see from the slide, we started out, obviously the town staff start probably in October with their department requests and capital planning, but the town council gets involved and really into the heat of it on February 9th. We then held a joint meeting with the Board of Ed on the 23rd and a budget review session on the 15th, 16th, and 20th of March. We then held our public hearing on the 4th of April and finalized the budget or adopted the budget on the 10th to go to referendum. And the referendum will be on May 2nd. Going to the next slide. So our planning and community budget goals were to allocate funds for essential services, alleviate employee burnout and improve retention through fair compensation, minimizing impacts on the mill rate, and maintaining the town's credit worthiness. Moving on to expenditures. So overall, the government operational budget increased from $13,017,396 to $13,542,051 for a total of $524,655, or a 4.3% increase. On the Board of Education side, the budget increased from $41,737,723 to $42,989,855, which reflects an increase of 3% or $1.252 million. Capital improvements saw an increase from $255,880 to $319,451, which indicates a $63,571 increase or 24.84%. Debt service was kept flat at $4.7 million, which brings us to the total of proposed for fiscal year 23-24, $61,551,357, which is a $1.84 million budget increase or 3.08%. So what does the 4.03% do for town services? Some of the driving costs were health insurance and other benefits at a tune of about $111,576. Inflationary costs, waste management, and road treatments were 2 other high drivers with $108,000 and $129 respectively. And negotiated contractual wage increases were roughly $244,273. Proposed in the town manager's budget included additional funding for the historic district at $2,000, new funding for the Veterans Recognition Commission at $1,000, and an additional $1,000 for the Permit Celebration Commission. 3% for the school services. So some of these slides were provided by Dr. Willett. I do not know if they are online or not, but if they are, they hop on at any point, they can provide additional commentary. So some of their information was sustaining the educational value for the people of Tolland. Significant drivers on the next slide. TPS, teacher settlement for staff salaries, was below average. However, the contract settlements still have an impact on the increased funding requested budget. As many know in council chambers, but just a general notification, the health insurance was a major driver at about $1.2 million. They tend to have fluctuations every 3 to 4 years. And the council passed earlier in the year $200,000 in ARPA funds towards their BOE health insurance needs to alleviate that impact. And also education transportation costs increased. All right, there's Dr. Willett. So I'll slow down a little bit. We just got to your slides. So the original Board of Education Budget was a 5.96% increase. The manager proposed a 3%, 55 million, and the council adopted that number to be held as is. This is shown in the slide, and in the next, there was original information on the budget as well as numbers being discussed, I believe, on the 17th. Additional detail on the preliminary suggestions may be reviewed at the link below, which is available online. I'll keep going forward with capital and debt services, but Dr. Well, we can, circle back to the Board of Ed once you're all set with it. I don't want to put you on the spot right away.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I mean, I can go over what they've reduced if you want me to.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're comfortable at this point, if you're all good to go.
Sure, yeah. So in the April 17th meeting, the Board of Ed made a final determination to basically go ahead with most of the reductions that were on the list from March. And right now, the current reductions are posted on the Board of Ed's website. To the right, there's a budget link, budget documents, and then on that page, it has all of these reductions. Transportation was renegotiated to 9.5%, which provided about 86,000. Special ed education reserve fund was used. The education reserve fund has been used to offset some special ed transportation costs of 373. There was a slight excess cost adjustment. I think where energy pricing and diesel gave about 75, dime oil, heating oil gave about 45. And reductions were made to the nurse subline, unemployment lines, state trooper, public safety lines. There was, as you're aware, an offset, which they were grateful for. ABIS position at THS was reduced, including fringe benefits. TMS THS math coach, which is a teaching position, was reduced in benefits. Learning a LEAP program. The THS math position, which is a teacher, was reduced. Rope para position. Rope is rite of passage experience. It's like a mental health program. Was cut, that was reduced. The THS custodian was reduced. The THS business teacher was reduced. The child development program was discontinued, with that teacher reduced. And a couple of teachers to grants. There's also a series of instructional supply reductions, science supplies reductions, workbook reductions. These are all just too numerous to mention really one by one. The other positions that were reduced in an earlier way, but are part of this as well, are the 6th grade intervention position. There's also a teacher that was a tech position that was reduced. A financial account was reduced. Stipends that were used to support teachers with technology were reduced. And library materials, ICMA, other OPED, and other things like that. Also, I think it was 0.27 of the speech language pathology position was reduced. So other than going into every single line, that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. All right, we'll move to capital debt service summary. So the general fund portion of the capital improvements increased 63,571. And then, as was mentioned previously, 50,000 in savings was taken off the town manager's proposed budget for debt service, which left the town flat at 4.7 million. This was a result of removal of the fire aerial truck in future years and pushing out the BOE's HVAC project until grant funding can be attained. The used aerial truck was recently purchased. Additional budget highlights: historical use of the $200,000 of fund balance was maintained. And that brings us to the expenditure slide. So overall expenditures for the budget, as we mentioned, 61,551,357. You can see the breakout of about 70% goes to the Board of Education, about 7 2/3 goes to debt service, just over 0.5% for capital improvements, and about 22% for town operations. So obviously, you got even out, you need revenues to match the proposed budget. So outside of the revenues, education grants cover about 14.5%. Just over 2.18% is for other grants. Permits, fees, interests, etc. covers about 1.5%. and contribution from the fund balance is about 1/3%. So that leaves the remaining revenues through property taxes at 50 million or 81.48%. The next slide, as shown, is the estimated tax for residential and commercial based off of the past 2 fiscal years. So we have the breakout, kept it towards low, medium, high. In the past, we've done a larger breakout during the budget cycle, but kept it to the standard low, medium, high ranges. So for a house on the lower end of the market value, it's about a $97 increase on taxes this year. Medium is 134, and high end value is 236. And for commercial, the low end is 143, medium is 261, and high end is 589. So there were some comparable communities. I know, Lisa, I think you had possibly sent over a file, and I can share it with Lisa too, that had a breakout of the differences. But there's a breakout of the various towns there. Our budget increases, so we're kind of in the middle of the pack, a little bit lower than Coventry, but higher than Vernon and Wellington in terms of that data. So move on to the next slide and see if I can pull that data for at a later point. So creditworthiness is being maintained. 250,000 use of fund balance, which has been historical and at level pre-pandemic, and 68,000 from fund balance for debt service. So we are maintaining that AAA credit rating and financial stability. And thank you to Lisa for all those efforts and judicious use of the various fiscal policies. So overall, this budget goals scorecard, we allocated funds for the essential services, work to alleviate employee burnout, support staff with fair compensation through negotiations that were completed by the council and the Board of Education, providing a minimal impact on the mill rate over a period of time, and have maintained credit worthiness going forward. I think will be something that can be maintained through this budget and similar budgets going forward. So moving to the budget referendum question, as laid out by the council when we adopted the budget on the 10th, is shall the town of Tolland's proposed 2023-2024 budget of $61,551,357, reflecting a spending increase of $1.8,040,358 or 3.08%. It requires an estimated tax rate of 37.33 mils, or an increase of 0.75 mils or 2.05% be adopted, yes or no. Where to vote and when? Obviously, the past few years, due to COVID, it was being held at the rec center. So this will be a little bit of a change again to pre-pandemic voting location at the library program room, which will be Tuesday, May 2nd from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. For anyone who's looking to better understand their impact on the budget, you can check out the links below, presentations online to calculate your estimated taxes if you're in the middle or within the range of the 3 previous brackets. And again, the annual budget referendum, May 2nd, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. For voting questions, you can reach out to the registrar's office, the clerk's office, or the town manager. I believe the informational flyer is in the process, or it's been public printed and is being mailed out very soon. So everyone should be seeing those. With that, the presentation has been concluded, but we'll move to item 5, which is opening up for public participation, questions, and comments. I know, Jody, you had your hand up before, so I don't know if you were looking to speak again. So, but I'll open the floor. If you were on Zoom, you can hit the raise hand function or *9. And if you're in the audience, you can approach the front of the room to address the council. And as a reminder, to state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Stephen. And I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I am supposed to be having a Historic District Commission meeting at this exact same time, which is regularly scheduled for tonight. And I cannot get into my Zoom link. And my whole committee is like texting me and calling me and emailing me. And I can't seem to find anybody. And I don't know if maybe it's because we can't be in 2 Zoom meetings at the exact same time.
Well, that might be an issue.
Is Mr. Foley there or David Corcoran there who could possibly help me out? Because
Lisa Hancock's here with us. She's going to reach out to David Corcoran, town manager.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I really did want to attend both meetings, but when you're chair of a commission, it's kind of hard to blow off your own meeting to listen to come to this meeting, you know? But I do plan to return soon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jody, can you have my, this is Lisa Hancock.
Yes, you have my phone number, don't you? Do you want to text me?
I wanted to, but I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say it publicly. Let me see if I do not have it. Can you email it to me? Do you have
Sure.
my town email? Email me your cell phone number and I
Sure.
will go in another room and try to.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I did email Brian and David Corcoran and Jim, but I don't know if any of them are still there. It's after
No.
hours, I know.
No, they're
No
dealing
worries,
with
Jody.
an
I
emergency.
apologize. Thank you very much, Steve.
No problem. I mean, if it's an issue of us being on the Zoom meeting, unless you have any further public participation,
This could end very quickly.
this Zoom meeting account might be available and readily open to start that, so.
Okay,
hopefully
thank
maybe
you.
it's just a piece, but
All right,
All right.
I'll reach out to Lisa. Thank you.
no problem. Thank you. All right, is there anyone else from the public? Again, you can either hit *9 or the raise hand function, or if you're in the audience, you can approach the table and state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, going once, going twice, 3 times offered, we'll move to item 6. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:19 PM.
I'll make that motion.
So moved by Councilman Yudichak, seconded by Councilman Murray. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That is unanimous. We are adjourned at 7:19 PM.